Hi Virgo, how are you? It's Sarah with Earth to Sarah Tarot. I'm going to do a love reading for you for the month of February and into March. I'm going to start by saying that we had a solar eclipse last night in the sign of Aquarius. The sun is ruled by Leo. Leo is our heart chakra, our feelings, our individual selves, our self-worth, our ability to love, give love, receive love, identify love. So I think for you, especially as we move into Pisces season and the sun will be moving into Pisces, that's your direct opposite sign, the sign of the collective, the whole, the collective unconsciousness, the dreamer, the feeler, the vulnerable sign, which is completely everything you aren't, right? You focus on individual pieces, you focus on refinement, you focus on solitude, the individual self, perfection, duty, daily tasks, not the whole, right? So I think this is a challenging time for you, especially when we're dealing with relationships. This eclipse has a lot to do with relationships, because where do we operate from in relationships? Our heart, right? Virgo, I think that you are incredibly intelligent people. I think that you know a lot about a lot, but I do think that relationships and vulnerability and your heart and seeing people for what's inside, not how they should be or how you can refine them or how you can help them or serve them, but just seeing them for what they are, what it is, the beauty of what is, right? So you're the Hermit card. That's a card of solitude, 9, independence, self-reflection. So I think that learning about relationships and learning how to be vulnerable and learning how to not think and just love is a lifelong challenge for you. So I'm trying to put this in a way that you'll understand, and I was thinking a lot about it, and I was thinking as a Virgo and someone who focuses on detail and refinement and how we can fix things, change things, pick them apart, and understand them, information, right? Where was I going just now with that? As someone who does that naturally, who just thinks and dissects, you have a tendency to create separation. When we look at things on how they can be better or how they are different than us, we are focusing on separating ourselves from the other, how we're different, right? When we focus on how we're the same, we operate from a place of love, compassion, not fault or who can do better or whatever. We just accept, we just love, right? So the world is full of dualities, Virgo, left, right, male, female, up, down, heaven, hell, good, bad, husband, wife. We have 2 of everything, masculine, feminine, 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 ears, 2 legs. But what do we have 1 of? We have 1 heart, vital organ. It runs our entire body. So if you are to focus, Virgo, what's in the heart, on what's in the heart of a person, and not the actual content of a message or the information of a message, but the meaning and the feeling and the genuine emotion behind a message, and you start seeing people for their heart, what's in their heart, I think that's where you will be more successful in interpersonal relationships altogether. So, oh, boom. Okay, we got a couple cards out already. The Magician. First card out. Great. Mercury. Control. Resources. But this is also about manipulating our environment, changing our environment, controlling our environment, creating a space that is good for us, operating from a confident, deep, compassionate level also. The Magician has the ability to change things. So you, Virgo, have the ability to change the way that you think and the way that you are in your environment. Yes? It's not stuck like that. Ace of Pentacles. Awesome. Beautiful card. And the Empress. Okay. Wow. So I was watching the movie Pretty Woman the other day, and it was so eye-opening for me. I just have so much to say. I'm sorry if this is long. I'm going to get right into the cards in just a moment, but I have to preface this with this Pretty Woman analogy, okay? So I was watching the movie, and Richard Gere in that movie is amazing, right? He's gorgeous, he's successful, he's put together. And he meets, if you've never seen the movie, it's old, but if you've never seen Julia Roberts and Richard Gere in Pretty Woman, please watch that movie. It's an absolute classic. So anyway, I was thinking, okay, Richard Gere is a Virgo. He has to be, or he's acting just like a Virgo in this movie, the way that he wants to refine this woman so much and change her appearance, and he gives her money in his credit card, and he helps her out, and he is surprised by how intelligent she is and how beautiful she is and all this stuff, but he still tries to refine her and get her ready to go out to the cocktail party, and he's just shocked by some of the things that she does. She sits on the table when she eats, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's doing that. She's eating without a napkin. She's got bread, a croissant hanging out of her mouth, and she's speaking with her mouth full. But she just operates from a place of her heart. She just knows who she is. She just doesn't care what other people think. And he is so enamored by the fact that she doesn't care about what others think that he's shocked by it. And Virgo, you're not a person. And in the movie, she goes into the restroom, and he's thinking, okay, she's a hooker, and she's going into the restroom, and he barges in after her, just thinking that she's going to do drugs in the restroom because she's a prostitute, and he just assumes, right, that he knows how she is, and she's actually flossing her teeth, and he is like, I don't allow drugs in my house, tries to kick her out, and she's like, I'm just flossing my teeth. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And he stands there and looks at her, and he goes, it's just that very few people surprise me. And I know, Virgo, very few people surprise you, but I'll tell you what, when you start seeing people for what's inside of them and their heart, not how you can change them or how they should be or whatever, or just from the space that I can learn something from that. I'm not as fluid when it comes to vulnerability, and I'm not as educated when it comes to being in a committed relationship, or that's just not my natural state. You can learn something. You can be surprised. You will enjoy what comes of that. And so anyway, like I was saying at the beginning, how Virgo, you're a sign of taking things apart, dissecting, refining, perfecting, and Pisces is a sign of oneness, wholeness, acceptance, compassion, love, just seeing one another for one another, right? That relationship between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere is so indicative of that dynamic. It's like Julia Roberts, I think is actually a Scorpio, but either way, water, still very vulnerable, very similar to the Pisces nature. And it is incredible to see that relationship and how different they are, how similar they are, but how different they are. And what he ends up respecting is that she does not jeopardize what's in her heart ever. She does not allow anything material to take away the fact that she wants the fairy tale. She wants to be loved. She wants to be seen. She wants to be valued for who she is, not for what she could be. Not for how he can change her, but how he can just love her for her. And so I think for you, Virgo, that's a challenge. Just to see people for their heart and what's in their heart. And allowing people to surprise you. Allowing them to teach you something. And not thinking that you know exactly who they are based on whatever first impression you get or facts you know about them. If he were to just look at her on paper, oh, she's a prostitute, she's wearing this horrible outfit, she has on a wig, she spits her gum out on the street, she's a mess, right? But once he goes deeper, once he sees what motivates her heart and how that is her foundation for being, he realizes he can learn something from that. He realizes that it's valuable. So let's look down at the cards here and we'll talk more about that, Virgo. But beautiful cards so far. I hope you can see that. Okay, I'll hold them up, of course. But so I'm just going to scoot it a little closer. If you've never watched my channel, I shuffle, allow the cards to come out. I do a 9-card spread. The first card out is usually it sort of sets the tone and allows me to see where the energy should be focused. And the eclipses, like I mentioned before, are very magical times. It gives us a time to start from scratch, to start from square one, to change what needs to be changed, to create our own magic, to see the beauty in nature and imperfection. So I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect for you. The roses, love, passion, romance. The Magician, he's number 1. He's just after the Fool, so he's just starting his journey. Realizing, Virgo, that you have things you can learn. You have a place to start. You have all the resources inside you. You have the mental capacity, the self-control, the willpower to keep adjusting to new things and keep adjusting to life and to be able to continue to learn. This is the first stage of that process. And the Empress is the Holy Mother. She's the divine feminine. She is about love. She's about fertility. She's about relationships and nurturing in the home, and more so, she's about the heart. She's Venus, love. She is able to see people for just what they are, for their heart, and she loves herself. So, although you might not see this at first in someone, if you keep looking deeper, if you take on that unconditional, compassionate nature of an Empress type person, you will see that all people want similar things. When we stop seeing how people are different and we start seeing how people are the same, we are able to see the beauty in connection. The Ace of Pentacles, blessings. Yes, money. Yes, success. But something that grows, something that manifests into a material possession and worth, something that we can hold and touch and see with all our five senses, something that is very valuable and cherished. Seeing the value in love and connection and relationship. It's something that I think you're able to start doing. You're able to create this if that's what you want. If you want a relationship, a family, you have to start seeing yourself as someone who's going to be willing to put in the time and effort into opening up and developing a raw, deeper connection with someone, and not just trying to see things for how they should be. I mean, she's the epitome of perfection, yes, and I know that this is also perfection. But what happens when someone doesn't meet those expectations? What happens when you conjure this perfect relationship, perfect scenario up in your mind and it doesn't work out? Or someone doesn't meet up to the expectations that you think that they should be. Sometimes love comes in surprising packages. Sometimes what we build up in our mind to be what we want, to be something that's powerful and sturdy. It's like, Virgo, you're really realizing this, I think. And most of the time, even if you look at the Hermit card, he's looking at the past. Most of the time, in all the Druid stories and things, Virgo, you don't realize things that you don't see the beauty in things, or you don't realize the value in things sometimes until they're gone, until they've been taken away, and you're able to be alone with your suffering and you feel something, you feel suffering, then you're able to see what you've lost. And that's not necessarily a good thing. You want to be able to see the beauty in what you have before it's gone. The Empress is fertile. She creates life. She creates love. I really feel like you want that. You really do. You want someone you can trust. You want someone you can be open and vulnerable with, like you are with your mom, right? Page of Wands. Your actions are super important. And I think the way that you are communicating with people, the way that you are seeing people, the way that you are expressing how you feel is really needing to come from a place of the heart. It's really, you really have to trust that emotions are okay to have. They don't make you weak. They don't make you less than. They don't make you imperfect. Your mistakes don't make you imperfect. This is the Five of Cups. Is about the past. It's about regret. It's about things not going how we thought they would go. Feeling emotionally withdrawn. A slight depression. Virgo, you might have lost something that you really, really wanted to work, or you just didn't see that person for who they were. You were trying to, I think, change them, because the Magician, like I said, is about manipulating things and changing things. Or you were trying to change yourself, or you were trying to show up as something that wasn't authentic to you, that wasn't in your heart, and it ended up blowing up. The Tower comes and it shakes our world up a little bit. It's a forced change, but it's also a realization. So a realizing that your ego has potentially destructed a very fertile relationship, or realizing that your actions and not speaking your emotional truth and not opening up to someone and allowing them to just be as they are has caused regret for you. The Page of Wands is messages, friendly messages, but it's also about action and what we do and what we say. It's about being curious. It's about humbling ourselves to the fact that we still have things to learn. So you may be dealing with a fire sign, a Leo, Sagittarius, Aries, also Taurus. Is here. Doesn't have to be those signs, but either way, a person that's self-confident, that's passionate. You see how she's very open to her sexuality and open to her heart. And like I said, Leos are okay with expressing themselves. They don't worry about what everyone else thinks of them all the time. And this emotional withdrawal, this emotional confusion that you're having is because you're not operating from that place. Seven of Cups is confusion, emotional confusion. The Fool. The Emperor on the bottom of the deck. Super strong Aries qualities here. But look, the emperor, the empress, the masculine, the feminine, that duality, the potential. This is often the king and the queen falling. When we build our expectations so high for something, or when the higher we rise, the further the fall, they say, right? So the higher you put these expectations and try to perfect things and people, I think the further the disappointment for you, the further the fall. The fool is on the edge of a cliff. The only thing guiding him is the belief that the universe will provide him with the experience he needs to go forward. He has no expectations. He has no idea of how things should be. He just is ready to experience. He's ready to be vulnerable. He's ready to be open. He's ready to learn. He's ready to start this path. Earth, air, fire, water. Be open to all those things. Be open to the emotion. Be open to the thought. Be open to the action. Be open to the building and developing and creating something that's real. So at the end of Pretty Woman, Richard Gere says they spend a week together. He pays her, and he's in control of this deal the whole time. He's creating this week for her, right? And he offers her an apartment, and he'll get her off the streets, and he'll set her up with some money, and she doesn't have to be on the streets anymore. And she declines. She says no. He goes, why? You know, it was a task-oriented thing. It was an everyday thing for him, right? It got her off the streets. It made sense to him. I'm doing something kind. I'm helping you in your everyday life, right? And she says to him, that's just geography. I want more. What else? And then she tells him the story of when she's a child. She had this dream that a prince came and rescued her from her castle and you know, drawn his sword and all this. And so he's like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. But she thinks that she's worth that. She believes that she's worth that. And she's strong enough to say, that's my dream. That's what I want. And I'm not going to take the money. I'm not going to compromise my heart, what's in my heart, for geography. I want more. And in the end, I mean, it's a movie, but he shows up with a rose in his limo. He climbs to the top, and he does something so out of his element, so trusting, so, to him, foolish. But he dives in, and he does it. And he gives her her fairy tale. And yeah, it's beautiful. But I think, Virgo, that's looking stupid, and you fear that. You fear if you open up and act vulnerable and believe in the fairy tale, you're a fool. That's not true. It doesn't have to be a white horse. He rides up in a white limo, right? It can be your version of the fairy tale. But you aren't, if you're a Virgo woman, you're not always going to show up perfect like the Empress. If you're a Virgo man, you're not always going to show up perfect like the Emperor. But it's that unconditional connection that they have with each other, that ability to see the value in oneness and togetherness, in two people working together to create one unit, one family, one goal of happiness, of love, right? So I think that you may have had that recently. You may have been foolish and let a very beautiful man or woman or potential connection go because it didn't seem realistic. It didn't seem on paper right. You know what I'm saying? For Richard Gere, him being in an actual relationship with a hooker or a whatever, it did not seem realistic because he was a millionaire in the movie. It just didn't seem right. But she could teach him things. She surprised him. She did not compromise who she was to please him or whatever. She knew who she was, and he liked that, right? He defied her expectations. There's another example of they got in a fight, and she goes, "I want my money, I'm out of here." He hurt her feelings really bad, and he throws the money on the bed, and she takes off and leaves, and he looks down and sees that she didn't take the money. She didn't take the money. She left the money there. And that made him chase after her because he's like, again, she defied my expectations of her. I figured she'd take the money and run. But really what I did hurt her. And it's not about the money. It's about the way I made her feel. It's about the way I valued her heart. And from her taking the money isn't right because that wouldn't prove her point. That would make it okay for him to treat her like that because she got paid. And what she was saying is, no, I may not look or on paper be someone that you see as strong and valuable and beautiful and capable, but I am. I don't need your money to validate my self-worth. And so I'm going to leave it here. Keep your dirty money. And he chases after her and apologizes and fixes it. But he had to see not the message, not the words coming out of her mouth, but the feeling behind it. And the way she showed him was through that test. Virgos, you test people a lot. And if they fail your test, they never really know that they're being tested. But if they fail your tests, it's like you never tell them what happened. But in that particular movie, she ends up passing all his subconscious tests. And he doesn't even know he's testing her, right? So when you assume and try to control your feelings and how you think people are, it doesn't allow the magic to happen. You cannot see the beauty in what they are. Yeah, it's just so, it put everything together for me so much. So I challenge you with this Leo energy, this Pisces energy, to start seeing people for how you're the same, and that everyone wants love, and everyone's heart beats the same way, and don't compromise your heart for anyone, for anything. Also, Virgo women can take a page from Julia Roberts' playbook in that movie of just being yourself, not worrying about what other people think of you, just being comfortable in your body, just laughing, just, you know, letting loose, not worrying about being perfect all the time. Because she's beautiful. She's a pretty woman just the way she is. Of course, when she puts on those beautiful clothes and starts refining herself, yes, Richard Gere makes her just that much more attractive, but that's the compliment of the relationship. That's how someone who's very different from you, Virgo, who is very much operating from their heart like a Piscean watery energy, how that can complement you so well. She allows him to be vulnerable. She talks about things that have happened in his life, and it makes him feel loved and special. And she teaches him to see people for their heart, right? So that kind of situation can complement very well. You can teach them how to hold their fork properly and sit up straight and have self-respect and how to talk to people and how to be professional, and they can teach you how to be loving and compassionate and raw and foolish and silly, right? So, pretty woman, Virgo. I love it. I hope this made sense to you, and I hope that you stop listening to the general words of people and start focusing on the love behind what they're saying and who they are as individuals, and start teaching people to love their imperfections and love all the emotions that they have, and love yourself for all the emotions that you have. Your heart is not wrong. It does not make you foolish or weak or less perfect to be angry, be emotional, be silly, it doesn't. It makes you real. It makes you real. Either we're making mistakes or we're faking perfection. That's a quote from Drake. It's real. Everybody makes mistakes. And if you're not admitting to those mistakes, and you're not constantly accepting that you can grow and change and learn to love and be better and be more open and unconditional, then you're faking perfection. Right? Because we all need that. We all need to connect and find those similarities in people. Not dissect and differentiate. So I think that's just your biggest challenge. I hope you're able to kind of see the ways that you make people different, instead of see the ways that you are the same, and how you can just value them for who they are. I hope that makes sense. Have a wonderful month and happy eclipse. Thank you so much. Namaste.